Oh, hello, Clive.
Hi.
Can you hear me well?
Yes, I'm
Welcome.
all set up.
Yeah, I can see you and hear you. I'm so grateful that you are here. Thank you so much. I'm really
Oh, it's a
thrilled.
pleasure.
So I was just saying that you are, I believe, the world expert. You've been teaching and practicing Gouache before Gouache became a trend. And would you like to tell us a bit about yourself and the meaning of gua sha? So, what does gua sha also
Okay,
mean?
sure. So yes, I started doing gouache when I very first qualified as an acupuncturist. So this is going back over 20 years. And immediately I noticed that there's something interesting about it. And I kind of went straight into it from then on. So I've been doing it for about 20 years. So you're right. When I first started, there was no Instagram stuff about gua sha. Facial gua sha was a thing, but it wasn't
Right.
quite what it is now. And certainly no one was interested in the things I had to say at that time for many, many years. And
Right.
I wrote books, and the first year of some of those books, no one bought them. This is again going back about 10 years.
Right.
But of course, now we all know that it's become really popular, especially because it's the face.
Right.
And so you asked about gua sha. And so this is one of the things which is very important to me because whenever you come across people talking about gua sha, it's very, very important to kind of understand what it is, where it comes from, because then you're really doing the authentic thing. And you're not just kind of bringing in from other places, from other industries, and saying, well, this is gua sha, but you don't really know whether it is or it isn't. So one of the important things is first understand the gua and the sha, which is the two characters which
Right.
you put together, which make gua sha. And the two characters, they're Chinese characters. And you can see I kind of stick them on the front of some of my books. So it's really easy to see what these look like.
Mhm.
And if you understand the gua, which gua, it just means scrape. That's really
Right.
just what it means. It's that movement of scraping.
Mhm.
But then the interesting one is Shah. Now, Shah has about maybe 8 meanings, but a few of them are really important for us. Now, lots of people think Shah is just those red dots. Do you know those red dots when
Right.
you scrape on
Yes.
someone's back? Or maybe if you do a search on the internet and have a look for gua sha, and then you see all these amazing pictures, you think, oh no, I don't want to have a back like that. Yeah. So
Exactly.
that lots of people think that that is Shah. But that is a part of Shah. Petechiae is the name in English we have for those red dots, but it's
Okay.
not really. That's the closest word in Western medicine we have, but it's
Mhm.
not actually that. It's something totally different. And it really, if you look at the history of gua sha, so I went back and tried to go to these Chinese texts and find out the history. And it's absolutely fascinating. And you can see how it comes, although now people know it for the face, it actually comes from treating cholera and typhoid, these really, really terrible diseases. And they were using gua sha on people's backs and on people's arms and various other places to actually try and fight really serious disease in certainly in parts of China. And it's the idea was the original idea. If you go way back, the idea was sand lice come into the body, and the idea was to scrape, and the sand lice comes out. This is a theory going back 3,000
Right.
years. It's a long time ago.
3,000.
Yeah, and then as time went on, this theory changed, and it became Shah disease. And now Shah disease is when something gets into your body and causes major disruption. And when you do the treatment, you can see these red dots. And that was one of the signs that Shah is
Mhm.
coming out of the body. And so it has this amazing history to it, which is absolutely fascinating. And when you read these old books, that I don't think people read these books. There's a book from 1675, which I really like, and it tells the story of a famous practitioner who cured his whole town of what they called the plague at that time. But we're not sure exactly what it was, but they called it the plague, purely from doing gua sha. And all the other towns and villages around, they were wiped out. Everyone was virtually killed. But this one wasn't, because this man treated everyone with gouache. And it's fascinating when you go through history and you see, well, that's what gouache is, really. And that's where it comes from.
It's really fascinating. So it's not just about beauty, it's health related. We know
Well,
that
it's
beauty
both. It's
is-
both
yeah.
because I don't see a distinction. I think it's a very artificial distinction to talk about beauty and health. And this is part of what the big thing that I try and talk about now, because beauty and health, they're basically the same thing. Because if you don't have health, you can't have beauty. And it's the other way around. And if you understand how the body works and how things are connected to your face from your body, you'll understand that you can't disconnect how your body is. And then if you have a look at these old books, so the original book, which is the Huangdi Neijing, which is, I'm always talking about this in my books and in my courses, is the original book that Chinese medicine is based on. Everyone bases it on this very huge text, which I say text, you might imagine a book. It's not really a book like that, because they used to write the characters in a line, but they used to write it on different materials that they had. It wasn't paper. And these materials kind of disintegrated over time. So over time, people have tried to put the writing together, and they kind of get it right in some centuries and they get it wrong another century. And so eventually you've kind of got an interpretation of this old book. And it's a fascinating book, and it basically has the theory of everything, life, nature, and just from the ideas of this book. And you can understand how the ancient Chinese just saw us as plants. They saw us as trees, and they saw what's inside our body as rivers. And they were looking up at the stars and understanding how the universe works and how it might affect our planet. And when you see this, you understand, well, this is beauty. This is the beauty they were talking about. It's not just the kind of superficial stuff that we see on Instagram all the time, like perfection. Perfection isn't beauty. Beauty is when your inner self shines out of your face so everyone can see it. And that's beauty. And that's available to everyone. This is the marvelous thing
I've
about
got
it.
shivers. It's exactly why I invited you and not anyone that practices gouache, because we see everyone just doing it different ways, but I wanted people to understand what is behind gouache, the ecology in motion that you so often talk about. Took a few of your courses, which I really enjoyed. And by the way, speaking of which, you have a course coming up in London in May 17th, is that correct?
May the 21st, 22nd.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll be in London, and that's for the first time. I'm gonna be actually teaching hands-on all of my ideas, all about nature and how to apply them to the face, because my background is not in beauty, and that's one of the interesting things about why I'm kind of coming into beauty. Because I'm coming from the world of health. I've been fighting disease for many years. I had a clinic in North Africa, and we concentrated on chronic illness there. But at the same time, I was looking at beauty and thinking, well, hang on, this is the same thing. And there was a lot of crossover. And then, but I'm applying the same principles, that fighting disease, to beauty on the face. So it's exactly the same principle. So I'm not doing something different. If I'm like treating someone's headache, for example, which is really nice just to do there, if I'm doing that, then I'm also treating your face as well. And if you can understand the relationships between it all, it's a lot of fun, and it's always exciting. And so this is why I'm really happy to actually start this year after, of course, the COVID interruption.
Of course.
And so I took advantage of that to really solidify. Well, hang on, what do I want to really teach people? What do I want to do? And so I've now got that really clear. And so this is actually the first time that I'll be actually showing everyone physically in London that weekend.
I
And
wish
there's
I wish I could join. I can't, but if anyone is watching now and you can get to London, have you still got some spaces available?
I believe there's one or two.
Okay, just in case, I will leave Clive Witham's.
Oh yes, everyone's invited. Yeah.
So thank you for for explaining that. And what you were saying earlier, anyway, that everything is connected, I always try and explain that too, because people come to me, ask me, how do I fix this or how do I fix that? But I'm saying, you can't. You have to work on the whole body, starting from your toes all the way up.
Yeah.
So you are confirming.
Yeah. I mean, it's really nothing complicated. You know, and this is one of the big problems of Chinese medicine, in that people have kind of come to understand it as something separate. You know, people use different language when they talk of Chinese medicine. They start talking about this thing called qi, and they talk about yin and yang, and they talk about all these strange words, which kind of sound familiar for some people, but for other people, it's like, well, that's a really strange concept. I don't know. I don't understand that stuff. Right. But it's just a misunderstanding, because what they're actually talking about is something completely different of what you really think they're talking about. They're really talking about the stuff happening in your bodies. There's nothing mystical about it in the slightest. They're actually talking about, you know, the muscles, the tendons, the connective tissue, the blood vessels. That's really what we're talking about. So it's always the real stuff. Basically, I always tell people, if you really want to understand Gouache, don't think you know, like a Chinese medicine practitioner or a scientist. Think like a natural scientist. You know. Remember, did you study geography at school? Do you remember those classes? No, not many people were good at it. You know, but that's the if you were going to study Chinese medicine at school, I'd put it in the geography class. That's where you should be studying it, because when you understand that the ancient Chinese, when they were using this language, they weren't referring to things which are outside. They were referring to the same stuff we can see everywhere, especially if we go to any nature anywhere. So the tree is a representation of exactly what happens inside our body. So if you understand how a tree works, and I'm going to explain some of this on my course, but also here. But if you can understand how the circulation, there's a certain circulation pattern that's kind of going up in the middle and coming down on the outside in the shape of the tree. And the ancient Chinese had the human body was like this. I don't know if you can see, it was like this. So the arms were these branches. And so this is one of the things about people are always asking me, which direction should I go with Gouache tool? I mean, it's an endless question. Always people are saying, well, I often get people saying, well, I've seen on the internet someone's going up the neck. You always say, go down the neck. I don't know which one's right. And there's always all kinds of things. Which do I go, up the arm, down the arm? But if you understand these basic principles of a tree circulation, you never need to ask me that question. You never need to, because it's so obvious. Which direction you're going to go in. Just think, now which direction does a plant, and does it happen in a tree? What about a river? And just think about those, and you know immediately which direction you have to do in any part of the body. It's that simple. Okay, well, I hope I'm doing it right. Yeah, but the thing is, I've got a certain way of doing it and teaching it. But I always try to make it really clear that I try not to make other people wrong. You know, I mean, I always say you got to go down the neck, but and I have my reasons for that based on Chinese medicine. And then if someone else is saying, oh, you got to go up the neck, I'm not going to say, oh, you're wrong, I'm right. You know, because there are various ways of doing things. Okay, I just kind of just say, I don't go here, only the sides, but. Oh yeah, you got to be careful. The front of the neck is a big no. Purely because if you look at research, it's the only place you ever read where someone has damaged someone with Gouache. This section here. And there have been several times in Taiwan, then people have been rushed to hospital and they've got inflammation inside in this area here. And it caused a lot of damage. So, and also, you know, you've got your voice box here. It's not good, is it? And so it's basically, you know, where the muscles stop here is a safe place, because the muscle is the padding. But as soon as you don't have any muscle, then you've got to kind of really know what's underneath in order to do it. Right. Well, thank you so much for explaining this. I just have another question. I don't want to keep you too long, and I want to see what the questions are. But people always ask about tools as well. I know it probably get like all the time.
I also know the
Yeah.
answer, but please do share.
Yeah, like which is the best tool? That's my favorite one. And it's like, which is the best tool? Well, the best for who? The best for what? So there is no best tool. And that's the thing about gouache. And did you know that there's no such thing as a gouache tool? It does not exist. It never has existed. So when people talk about gouache tools, I'm always like, well, what is it exactly? There's no historical text which describes a gouache tool. Never describes it. So what we've got is people just creating things over the past 30 years, different shapes, and there were just lots of people were creating in different countries, in Taiwan and in China and in Japan, and you've got this kind of mixture for different reasons. They got different shapes, and so I kind of had a look. I wonder where that shape comes from, and I try and find out where it comes from, and it's fascinating. And basically, my rule is, you can use any shape, any material, but it has to be comfortable for you, because people have got big hands or small hands, and some people can take more weight or not so much weight. And so it all depends on you. It also depends what you're going to do. Are you just doing the face, or did you want to do the neck or the shoulders or maybe the body? In which case, there's certain shapes that might be more useful for you, and other shapes which you might not be so good. So it's all about how you're going to use it and how you feel about it. There's nothing magic about any tool. I mean, you often see advertising of people who want you to buy their tool and saying, well, this is marvelous, this is special, in whatever way. There are 100 different ways to do it. But in fact, everything is special depending on what you need it for. And that's it.
Thank you. And
well, this is
asking,
my favorite. That's my absolute favorite. As everyone knows, I'm famous for using a spoon. Now, I don't actually use this spoon in my clinic because it doesn't look very good. But I do have spoons which are disguised, which don't look like spoons, but in fact they are spoons. They're kind of green and they look like jade. Everyone thinks, oh, it must be a jade, but it's not. It's a spoon. Because I always drop my tools. Always drop them. I don't know. Do you drop tools?
I'm careful because I heard you say that you can easily drop them. So when I wash them, like I'm always
when you kind of carry it around like that. And I'm sure anyone listening to this, you drop tools. And so this is the reason I don't buy expensive tools. Because
I dropped it now. We talked
Did
about
it break?
We talked about it now, guys.
Oh, there we go.
Wait.
I'm sorry about that. That was...
Sorry, we'll be right back. Just showing you. Well, this is live.
There we go. That's an example. Yeah, you can be as careful as possible, but it always happens because it's always one time when you're not concentrating, for example, just there.
Well, I will keep that. It's a memory of our meeting. I'd say,
I always keep them as well. Which is the reason why I always just use tools which I don't worry if I drop them. But it's also, I don't know, did you know that I went to Sri Lanka in February? I don't know, some people know.
I did not.
Okay, I went to Sri Lanka in February because I've had this grand plan about gouache for many years, which is one of the reasons I was in North Africa for a long time. And that is, I can see it as part of world medicine, in that it's so cheap. And you can actually treat a whole load of different conditions with treating gouache, especially on your back, not so much on the face. And so in Sri Lanka was the beginning of my project, which is to kind of teach people how to treat certain illnesses. And then instead of them going away and just treating their illness, they have to treat other people. So it's basically a kind of domino effect of teaching. So I can step away and it's still going on because it's so effective. And so part of that is you have to use, for that, you've got to use basic tools. And what we actually found in Sri Lanka, everyone had jars in their kitchen. So we got the jar lids and everyone used jar lids. And they used coconut oil because everyone used it there. So it was coconut oil and jar lids. And that was the tools you needed for gouache there. So I think tools depend on where you are, what you have access to, and what you feel comfortable with. Because you need to buy a new tool now, I think.
I'm actually having mine produced, so
Oh,
it
okay.
will be just
Soon,
in
I hope.
and pardon, in about a month I
Soon.
should receive the
Okay,
guac.
okay. Okay.
They might break too, but they will be
Well, this
pretty.
is the thing. Is I mean, tools are fantastic, and people think I don't like tools, but
Mhm.
actually I do. I've got every tool you can think of here, and I like using them. But it's because of me and my approach.
Of
I
course.
kind of prefer the spoon. So other people's tools, I like them, and I think everyone should choose the tools they love. And so, yeah, I'll be interested in looking at your tool when it's ready. I always like to inspect them and think, how can I use this tool?
I'll send it to you.
Yeah, yeah,
So you're based in Barcelona, is that right?
that's right. Yeah, yeah.
And you have a clinic there? Can people book appointments?
Sure. Yeah. Yes. In fact, the past week I've been kind of offline because we just opened a brand new one, which opens next week, and that there's a health and research center because one of the most important things with Gouache
Mhm.
is that lots of people say stuff, but there's nothing behind it, and so we've got a research center. So we're doing a lot of research but focusing on nature-based medicine. It's called, and so yeah, there I'll be doing treatments in Gouache and experimenting and doing all kinds of stuff.
How,
Yeah, it's in the center of
congratulations,
Barcelona.
really, congratulations.
Thank you.
Let me just see if there are any questions, just scrolling up, and I better wear my glasses. Yeah. So is it safe to massage when you have goiter? When you have,
Okay,
yeah,
okay, massage. I presume Gouache massage.
yeah,
Okay,
sure.
goiter will be like there'll be some retention of fluid in
Mhm.
this area here, and it's the same everywhere. If you've got retention of fluid, oedema is the technical word for it. So when you've got too much fluid in a certain area of your body, often people's ankles as well, and that's not a good place to do gouache or over fluid. So wherever's swollen, you don't do gouache over because you're not actually doing gouache then, because gouache must have something happening in the connective tissue underneath. So if you're doing it over an area which is swollen, the connective tissue isn't there because it's liquid. So it's
Right.
not the same thing. So what you do is you go in places near it, not
Mhm.
on it.
Oh, thank you for explaining that. Asking for eyebags, as we said before, everything is connected, so maybe we can.
Eye bags, yeah. Eye bags will be it's the front of your body. That's the clue with eye bags. It's
The
actually
front
called the
of the body.
stomach. It's the stomach river, the stomach channel, which is all the front of your body. And that's the connection here because it goes through your digestion as well. So it's your stomach, but it's also the front of your body. And so if you understand that, you can kind of understand what's going on under your eyes. So if you didn't fix the front of your body, if there was something going on in the front of your body, if there was something getting stuck, you've got aches and pains and your diet's terrible,
Mhm.
then your eye bags won't go because it doesn't matter what you do on your face. It's something happening further. I always refer to them like rivers. And so basically the river's blocked. And
Right.
so the river's blocked down here. So it doesn't matter what you do to your eye bags because the block isn't there, it's down here. You've got to fix here first. So that's an example of eye bags and the connection with the stomach, which is the front of your body.
So can we talk about facial reflexology? I can't even say the word. This
Sure.
connection, do we have all organs? Are they all reflected on our faces?
Yes, but when we come over to facial reflexology, that I don't have that experience to talk
Right.
about it. I always stay in my lane.
Sure.
My lane is gouache. So I do understand where the organs are on the body according to the ancient books. And there are various places where the organs are. And what they used to do was they would just look at your face and they would just immediately diagnose what's wrong with you from what certain colors on your face, and colors are so important, but also lines and marks, and just immediately diagnose because there is a certain pattern to how the organs in your body reflect onto your face. And there are basically two main ones, which is slightly different but kind of similar-ish. So I know all about those, and I explained about it as well. But the trouble is, I don't know anything about facial reflexology, because those ones that described in the ancient Chinese texts were only for diagnosis, and they weren't actually for treatment.
Right.
So it wasn't the idea that you pushed them. It was only that you actually saw them and then you understood the body. So the other way round, I don't know enough information to give you anything.
Sure, sure. If we can take one more question. Is it safe to use if there is rosacea?
Yes, but with anything going on in the face, for example, with acne is another one. It basically, you just avoid the area which is affected. And you go near it and around it.
Mm-hmm.
And as over time, the area, hopefully, it gets smaller, then you kind of come closer to it. And that's the idea for anything happening on your face.
Okay, well, thank you. This is so fascinating. I could ask you questions, endless questions, but one
I
day...
could talk all night. Yeah.
Hopefully one day I'll be able to take part of one of your live courses, because I have taken...
Yes, when are you going to come?
Oh, is that Barcelona or London? Are you like...
Well, I'm in September, October. I don't know exactly the dates yet, but somewhere it'll be in New York, and there'll be San Francisco and Los Angeles, and there'll be a few places in between. That's in September, October this year.
Oh, I'm in Switzerland. Maybe you should...
Okay, Switzerland. Well, you can always invite me.
Right? Yeah, I might get back to you. Okay, good.
But there'll be more.
More in the States mainly, but mainly
This year.
Okay, good.
But with the help with the research center, I'm hoping to start some courses there.
Great.
I'll be in Barcelona, and everyone wants to come down to Barcelona,
Yeah,
especially if you're in Switzerland.
Nice destination. So, as someone saying, very true, I'm having digestion problems. So I guess she was referring, yes, to the eye bags and...
Oh yeah. Eye bags and digestion, they go together, just like there's like two parts of the same coin. If you've got eye bags, you have a digestion problem, guarantee it, 99% sure. And you have to work on the digestion as well as whatever treatment you do locally in order to help the eye bags. But kind of what I mean is to kind of really fix them, not kind of superficially. So for example, if you're doing like plastic surgery or you're doing any intervention which is quite strong, what happens, and almost most treatments of when you inject certain chemicals in the face as well, they're temporary. They always tell you, well, this is going to last a year, or this is going to last 5 years, and need to repeat it. And the reason for that is because the problem is somewhere else, and your face is just going back to how it was, because that's the pattern which is in your body. And it doesn't matter what you do to your face, temporarily you can change it. But give it a few years, it's coming back. And that's this whole idea.
I agree totally. It just makes total sense. Sometimes we go and think of theories, very difficult to understand, but the truth is very, maybe more simple than we think. Now, there's another question, but it's in Spanish. Oh, you speak Spanish. I speak Italian. Can you say que lástima, no sé inglés. Oh, well, you don't speak
Okay, what a shame she doesn't speak English.
Oh, okay.
Está bien, es en español también aquí.
So did you learn Spanish like many years ago or how was it when you moved to Spain?
Well, so I put a little bit in some of my books about what I'd done in my life, but it was basically, we're living with my family on a Japanese island in the East China Sea. And it was just one day I had the idea of going to Spain, because I think, and we chose a strange place in Spain, in North Africa. And I didn't speak a word of Spanish, not a single word. And so we just went there and just learnt it. The children took about like a couple of months, but we took about 2 years. And that was going back now, I don't know, like 13 years ago.
You have such an interesting life, and even staying in Japan was like this island, and growing your children in the first years of their life in such a different environment.
Yeah, well, this is where my great love of the forest and my understanding of the forest that's where it all comes from Yakushima. This is the island that I used to live on, and just seeing this raw nature that I'd never seen before. And a tree, there's one tree which is between 2,600 and 7,200 years old. And like even the first number, 2,600, 2,600, that's pretty, I think, oh, okay, that's like, that's the time of the Romans. And so you can stand next to the tree and just kind of feel, oh, I've never met anything, an organism which is that old before.
Wow.
And the forest was made up of trees of thousands of years old, or most of them. And so
imagine the energy of
yeah.
Oh, I'd love to.
It's a different place. Yeah.
So I'm sorry, but I don't have your book here. I have followed your courses, but would you have one next to you? Otherwise, I will put the link in.
You don't have any of my books?
No, I've followed your courses.
Never tell an author that you don't have a book.
I have all your courses. I have your courses.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Lots of people don't have my book.
But I will
So
get it.
Yeah,
Guys,
don't worry.
Guys, you're here. I'm buying it.
Well, I'll go over there and I'll pull them out. I have to take out my earphones, so I won't be able to hear you. I'll lift them up and then I'll come back.
Please. In the meantime, I'll just see, guys, if you have any other questions, please ask them now. Let's see. I don't see any new questions about Gouache. Let me scroll some more. Okay, so that's the one I put up. Yes. Beautiful. She's your wife, right? We have different languages, so many translations as well.
Okay, I'm back now.
Yeah, I was saying on the cover, we have your wife on the cover of one of the books, if I am not mistaken.
Two of them.
Two of them.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah.
My long-suffering wife. Yeah, it's just
Long-suffering wife.
Yeah. Yeah, so this was the first one that I wrote. And this was the one that when it came out, that people didn't really know about Gouache. Didn't really know anything. And this is the one that just kind of sat around and no one bought it for a year. And it just like, I think after the second year, suddenly people noticed it. And then, oh, okay. And then it sold really well after that. And then this is the... I've written a new book which is coming out next year, but this is the latest book that was out this year.
It's available. Okay, this is, on the market.
But there's another facial gouache book which I wrote before this, but I thought I wanted to put more of the ideas of like nature because this was written before. So I did this one. So this has got all the kind of my ideas in it. So
everyone can go to Clive Witham's profile, and through the link in bio, you can reach his website, and you will find everything there. Everything's available for you to.
Yeah, and any questions and things like that, people can just contact me and ask me questions on Instagram and Facebook, and there's an email.
That's nice.
There's lots of things. I like communicating to people.
Yeah, I love that too. Oh, thank you that's very kind of you. I keep saying, let's take the last one, and then I see one more. I'm like, I want to help this person too.
Keep them coming. It's okay.
One more. Can you advise me on pigment spots, please? That's probably more for you can?
No, yeah, it's okay, because all these questions people have to understand about gouache, really. And this is interesting because you have to understand the limits about what you're doing. Because sometimes if you listen to people, you might think this is magic. It's gonna take all my wrinkles off. It's gonna take all my age spots. It's gonna do, I'm gonna look 20 years younger. And then, of course, someone really beautiful comes on to Instagram and does the facial treatments. And of course, they're already beautiful. And so, I mean, how depressing is that for everyone else who's got various things on their face? But so if you understand the limits about what you're going to do, in that you can't, you can make improvements with many things, but you're not creating magic. And so, for example, some of these spots, it wouldn't really matter how many times you do it. You probably are not going to get the result you want if you want the result to be perfection. Because you need to have other kind of treatments for that. You need more something more invasive, chemicals or some kind of treatment of that kind. But if you approach facial gua sha as it's not going to take all these things away, it's going to enhance all the things that are already there. So it doesn't take wrinkles away, but it will improve how the wrinkles look, because the tissue underneath will have better circulation, and there'll be more moisture there, and will kind of puff out slightly, and so the wrinkles will look much better. But that's not your goal of facial gua sha. It's not to take away all of these 21st century beauty features. It's to enhance what's inside you. And so when that comes out into your face, and then everyone sees your face, they'll be like, well, something's different. I'm not sure what it is, but I can see something different in your face. And no one will be able to kind of put their finger on it. And you'll go back to the mirror and you think, well, hang on, I've still got some of those marks. I've still got these things. Something has changed, because this is what gua sha is. It's bringing that inner self out into your face. And some of these little things are going to improve. And then some of them won't, because that's the limit of what you're doing. So I kind of want to turn it on its head, the idea about beauty. And if you do that, then there's a lot of happiness involved. But if you come to the other way, there's a lot of sadness involved. And I much prefer the happiness.
I totally agree. I like women to come to me because they love themselves, and because they want to show, because they are grateful to their body, and they want to keep it healthy and looking. It's just appreciation for their bodies. It's not hate. So I couldn't agree more. And I think this is a beautiful, beautiful message. So I have one more question, but of course, there are so many courses Clive's courses that you can follow also online, where you can see details. But just to know, people talk about angle of gua sha on the face.
Yeah.
How important is that?
Okay, so again, I don't want to make anyone wrong. So I can only give actually, I really don't know what other people do, because I'm kind of blinkered, so I have no idea. So as far as I'm concerned, angle is really not that important. I mean, there is a certain angles that are certain ranges of angles, but there's just the obvious thing about angles. If you're going to put the angle too acute, or kind of to the opposite direction, so if you're going to go that direction, they're going that way, and you have the I'm going to get the tool. You have the tool there, or you have the tool like that or like that. So different angles. So you can try it out yourself. One of them will dig in more, and the other one will be much smoother and softer on the skin. So then you can understand easily, well, this one is a stronger treatment if it digs in more. And the other one, which doesn't dig in, well, that's a lighter treatment. And it's that simple. It really is that simple. Do you want to do a strong treatment, or do you want to do a light treatment? And that's how you would understand the angles you have to go on face.
So thank you so much, Clive. I mean, you dedicated us time, shared part of your wisdom, and I really do hope that one day I can meet you in person.
I'm coming to Switzerland.
Yeah, I have to organize something. I have to organize a workshop, something. I mean, it would be lovely.
It'll be fun.
It will be fun as well, yeah.
Yeah, of course it is.
I don't know if you can see the mountains there at the back.
Oh, wow. Where are you exactly?
I mean, it's a part called Ticino, Switzerland. Let me just move so you can see. I don't know if there's a bit of connection still.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful.
Just show everyone. Can you see the lake?
There's a lake. What lake is that?
It's called Lake Maggiore. It's near Italy.
Okay.
From the light, it's getting darker here. It's the Italian part of Switzerland. So it's a nice part of Switzerland, the nicest one. We have the mountains, we have the lakes, we have the warmth, we have the good food. I'm not looking for the tourism office, but it's the nice part.
Oh, it's a beautiful place.
Okay.
Well, I'm definitely coming now.
All right then. Okay, so all the best with your course in London.
Well, thank you
And
very much for inviting me.
thank you once again. And yeah, speak soon, hopefully.
Okay,
Goodbye.
fantastic. Bye bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye, everyone.